Hi lovely people, and welcome back to my channel for day 5 of Tarot Vlogmas. Today's prompt is divination challenges, which at first I didn't kind of really understand what that meant, so I'm just completely going to go at it from my tack and my angle. Divination challenges. Now, I have only been in the world of tarot for about 2 years. I was late to the party as per normal. My divination challenges are coming at it from a newbie in the scene, and I wanted to talk today about the ways that I haven't felt good enough to read tarot, and to talk about some of the problems I've had learning the tarot. So if you've ever not felt good enough, or if you've ever struggled to learn tarot, this might be a nice video to watch. So in these last 2 years, my divination challenges have included, but not exclusively, feeling late to the party, feeling overwhelmed, feeling too exhausted to keep studying, unable to remember card meanings, engulfed in consumerism, trapped inside a tarot desk learning when I've wanted to be outside in nature as part of my spirituality, second guessing myself and tied to a guidebook because of too busy for tarot, too rushed for tarot, trapped in my head with all the studying, scared to death about forgetting the meaning of a card if somebody's watching, triggered by cards and then re-triggered again, imposter syndrome, and too old to be a beginner. If any of those resonated with you, then does it feel good to know that you are not alone? So I'm going to go through some of those key feelings and key divination challenges, and I'm going to talk about what I did to help. So the first one, unable to remember card meanings. Now, there are some things that I used to help. This deck helped enormously this year because I did a deep dive on this deck, and the way that I connected with this deck I found was a really good way to study cards in use, because I think that's one of the key things. It's not to sit with a textbook and try and remember. It's just simply to jump in and use the tarot, to read the tarot, to not just pull one card at a time, but to sit in the story of tarot. That helps you to remember. So don't wait to know the meanings before you start using tarot. At the end of the day, I read intuitively to start with before the card meanings began to stick. Now, in this Dreams of Gaia deck, what I did to really get to know this, because it was a different system, I started with this deck. I started pulling one card in the morning, one card in the evening. That would help me learn a card at a time, but then practicing putting the 2 card meanings together with an oracle to make a story and to make those connections, because I think you retain tarot in the connections, don't you, as well as just in the single card meanings. And then once a week I would do a weekly reading with 6 or 7 cards. At the start of the month I would do a reading with 6 or 7 cards, and if any other spreads came up in the month that I needed, then they would also be multiple card readings. By the end of a month doing that, I had worked through the whole deck. And of course, not only have I connected with the deck on a deeper level, but it's all putting those meanings into my head. It's just use, it's just using. I think if I'd have sat without a deck and without reading and without throwing stories out and had just tried to learn a card at a time, I would have been totally stuck. Of course, that was combined with reading the guidebook, continually flicking through the deck, just sitting and enjoying having a tarot deck embracing. Journaling with the cards also really helped to get meanings into my head. Journaling not just with words but with pictures. Now, I discovered this with the Weaver's Oracle. I wanted to write down my meditations for the Weaver's Oracle and I was forgetting them, so I started to draw my meditation visions as little line sketches, and you don't need any drawing skill for this. It can be really rough, and I found that putting it into pictures has really helped me retain that knowledge, because it's not understanding the knowledge or getting the knowledge. I think it's the retaining, isn't it? So that's something I'm going to continue with moving forward as I deep dive over a month with a chosen deck, journaling with images, photographs of the deck, and with little sketches. So that's helped me with both my divination challenges of not remembering the cards, and also feeling like I'm tied to the guidebook. It begins to expand the cards for me. Also linking what you read about the cards to people or events in your life. Like the King of Swords is my divorce energy card, that cool, calm, collected, analytical, emotion-free energy that you need to think things through clearly. That's what I took into divorce court with me. The minute I made that link, I never forget the King of Swords now. So beginning to personalize what the card meanings are for me. That doesn't mean that I read that if I read for a friend with the same meaning, but it helps me just remember the energy and the vibe and the meaning of the card. Also, having more than one deck really helped. To be able to cross compare cards from different decks, that really helped. So those are some ways I overcame the divination challenge of card meaning recall and not feeling tied to the guidebook. The second divination challenge I want to talk about is feeling overwhelmed. Feeling overwhelmed with the amount of things you want to learn, feeling overwhelmed with the fact that every single thing you learn opens up 10 other rabbit holes, feeling overwhelmed with decks and what you'd like to bring in, and trying to keep on top of that and trying not to spend too much money, feeling overwhelmed with that chase for knowledge, that chase for time to read books. I found myself in the last 2 years having moments where I was so overwhelmed I just wanted to down tools, and I know I'm not the only one. Then I learned that sense of panic and that feeling of hurrying is actually a trauma response. If you've lived through any trauma and you've got any sort of complex post-traumatic stress, hurrying all the time is it's a self-protection, and I do really hurry. So the first thing I did was to remind myself on repeat that I'm setting the time frame. If I feel overwhelmed, I can take some time out, deep breathe, and lower my expectations on myself. I saw this year. I put on my Goodreads list to read about 50 books. In my head, I was saying 65 books. And I haven't. I've read about 35 books. And I think that high expectation of more than a book a week when I've got so limited time is just setting myself up for that feeling of hurry to creep in. When I feel my heart start to race and that hurrying energy absolutely engulf me, I know that I probably need to look at what I'm expecting of myself. If that's you, it might be that you just need to lower your expectations. I think this year, rather than saying 50 books, aim for that, and using it as a goalpost to aim for, I'm going to say, like, read 5 books, but read them really well with study notes and in-depth tangent notes on them, track down some source material around it, and just read 5 books really well. This realization that I hurry is coming into my goal setting for 2022. I also felt overwhelmed with the amount of decks that I've got. I think, not that I want to get rid of any, but I've been in debt here this year, but I have bought some decks. But the decks that I bought to open on my birthday, I ended up not opening them because I'm still using the decks that I've got. So I've put decks that I bought for my birthday away to possibly bring out one a month through 2023. I really have felt that too many decks unused for me waiting does key into that feeling of rush and hurry again, which makes me feel overwhelmed. And then lastly, the biggie for me is my love of all of this. I have such a huge passion for tarot and my new spiritual path and witchcraft and nature energy and British and Celtic mythology. I want to know everything immediately, yesterday. And this is a lifetime of study here. Coming to it late in my 50s, I also feel like I'm playing catch up because there aren't that many years left to catch up. I'm not a 15-year-old coming into this. Again, it's all keying into that sense of hurry. There is so many things I want to learn. I have shelves of books just waiting to be read. I need to expand the time frame on this so that I can get back to enjoying the study rather than feeling hounded by it. And of course, it's not just tarot that I love and adore and I want to get to in all my tarot books and all my witchcraft books. It's other systems that I'd like to get to. If we're sticking with tarot, there's the Thoth. I want to be as proficient with the Thoth as my Rider-Waite decks. I would love to be able to say this card in the Thoth means this, it has these connections, it's here on the tree of life, the astrological connections are this, and it differs from the Rider-Waite for these reasons. I'd love to be able to dissect and compare and contrast with absolute knowledge and skill, and I'm not there yet. So within tarot there is a pull to other systems. I have beautiful decks like this that bring into play the Marseille system, and although Marseille doesn't necessarily call to me, what it does do, it intrigues me that such simple imagery could hold the meanings. And you know, what secrets haven't I unlocked yet? Is the angle of the foliage important? How exactly are these cards read? And this deck, which confused me so much when I tried to film a flip through of it, I'd love to find the time to study it and to understand why I was so confused and to not be confused anymore. How is it different? How is the same? How are these pip cards read? What symbols are within these cards that are not familiar yet, which I'd like to make familiar? It's all pulling me for attention. There are other systems like runes. Now, I bought this rune set when Lisa and Dawn Michelle were doing their runic study group. These are all on black onyx and they were from my local metaphysical shop. Did I join in with the group? No, I didn't have time. Have I used them since? No, I didn't have time. Would I like to learn runes? Yes, absolutely. Did I then try and bring in a rune deck to try and encourage me to start learning? Yes, I did. Is it still in its paper slip? Yes, it is. Just too much that I want to learn. Then did I learn that the Celtic system had oghams in as a divination system, and did I get sidetracked onto that? Yes. Have I now got decks with oghams on? Yes. Have I done any study of this yet or read the book yet? No. So you can see the rabbit holes that open up. I watched charm casting as well for the first time on YouTube with you lovely lot, and it blew my mind, and I started getting a little collection together of charms, like things I'd already got in the house. Charms from the kids' toys or from crackers, things I already had in my art studio for my artwork, bits of old jewellery and kids' jewellery with the charms taken up. I've been collecting them all and I'm desperate to start charm casting in my practice yet. Even looking at this video excites the hell out of me. I've got old toy boxes and old art boxes ready to be converted into charm casting boxes. Big plans for them. Have I done any charm casting yet? No, not enough time. So you can see all of this leads into a sense of overwhelm, and I think the only way around it is to focus. Oh my goddess, am I saying I need another depth year? Now I also said that imposter syndrome and being late to the party also keys into divination challenges. It pushes me to feel like I need to know everything yesterday. It pushes me to think that who wants to listen to me when I've only been in it 2 years? And that makes imposter syndrome, especially as soon as I talk about tarot publicly on YouTube, albeit with always saying like I'm new to this. However, I think that we really need to understand that if we come to it late to the party, and if you're coming to it late to the party, you have life experience and life skills that are transferable. You've met more people in your life that you can relate to the cards. You've been engulfed in more types of energy that you can bring to the cards. You've possibly got a bigger range of experiences that you can bring to your reading and to your spiritual life. And I'm not saying that is a rule of thumb across the board. I know that there are some youngsters who are old souls and bring just as many experiences to the table. But I think generally, if you're berating yourself for being late to the party or stepping into this in your 50s like I was, then don't discount your life experiences and the skills that you do bring. Society does enough discounting of older 50-year-old women, 50+ women. Don't jump on the same bandwagon. For me, my transferable skills that I realised really came into play are my art skills, reading pattern and reading image and reading colour as a deeper meaning, as a way to connect with the divine and with a story, to storytell through images. That art practice for me feels like a 40-year tarot practice. The tarot did not feel like a new hobby. It felt like home, just like my art studio feels like home. We all have skills that are transferable, so don't discount yours. Another divination challenge that I have is just my life. I'm too busy, too exhausted, not enough time. There are too many demands from every direction. My house normally looks like it's been burgled. My day normally starts with mounds of bedding to be washed. There are jobs in the house to be done, like guttering to be fixed and extractor fans that stopped working and made the paint in bathrooms get mouldy. All fixable. Have I got round to painting the rooms yet to cover it up? No. But when everything lands on you and you don't have money to throw at people to say come in and do it, it just seems like there's never any time. This week, for instance, my Christmas tree lights, my brand new Christmas tree lights failed, and I had to dismantle the entire Christmas tree, go back into town, replace the lights, come back and redo the entire Christmas tree. At the same point, it snowed this week and I still hadn't got round to getting the hot tub in. The hot tub was surrounded by dirty, muddy, sludgy snow, and I had to try and bring the hot tub in as well as have all the Christmas decoration boxes out the loft. I found I couldn't wash the hot tub on the patio because it was just getting covered in mud from the patio itself. So I ended up bringing a hot tub inside to wash mud off and hang it up on doors and exercise equipment and over banisters to dry. The bath is still full of parts of the hot tub, and there is nobody to turn round and say, "Oh my goddess, help me please." While that was going on, I caught somebody on my driveway going through all the things that I'd collected to build in the garden, all my stuff that I pick up for free when people are throwing them out. So bricks, pieces of metal, pieces of wood, old pallets. I went out to question them, already stressed to here with Christmas trees and hot tubs, and they were helping themselves to metal to sell for scrap metal. Having kicked them off the driveway, I then realised I had to carry all of the stealable materials to the back garden. That was another half a day gone. It's always chaos. There's always too many jobs. Too busy to sit and use my cards. And I have to keep reminding myself, you set your time frame. Nobody's policing me. Nobody's going to say you should have learnt that by now, or you're not good enough at this, or why is your house such a mess, and why are you sitting playing with tarot? Nobody is policing me. I can set my own agenda, my own time frame, my own expectations, and I'm beginning to realise the bar needs to be lowered across the board until I get to a point where stress becomes contentment and joy. So if you're over pushing yourself, if you're discounting the 8,000 other jobs you've got to do as nothing and still berating yourself for not getting to a deck of cards, this is your sign to stop it, lower the bar, just get to a place of peace and pat yourself on the back. And lastly, I want to talk about the divination challenge of feeling pushed into your head with tarot. There's a lot of reading, there's been a lot of study, there's been a lot of guidebooks, there's been a lot of deck comparisons, and a lot of that has gone on in my head. And I think at the end of this year, I felt like my head was going to explode, and I felt that real pull to adventure and getting outside again. So 2022, I'm going to beat that divination challenge and address it by Tarot in Tins. Tarot in Tins, Adventure Tarot, finding a tinned deck to take outside on an adventure, marrying up a deck in a tin or putting one of my other decks in some sort of tin to take to a certain location that matches, taking the readings outside. I started this in 2021 and I want to really push it next year. So outside altars, using my garden and plants really for calmer rituals outside in fresh air. One of my most sacred moments this year has been with the fallen tree in the middle of the woods. Walking to that fallen tree and bringing offerings to it has felt more impacting than 20 books read and hours spent indoors. And I want to try and find a way to bring bodily movement as well into my spiritual practice, moving the body, associating body actions with ritual, with tarot, finding a way to link it so that I can offer that up as part of this spiritual journey to get myself out of my head. So with those divination challenges, I think if any of them resonated with you, I think it's okay. I think the lesson is to embrace the consequences of your divination challenges. The consequences being that it's okay to flit if you want to, and to go from one system to another deck to another deck, but to know that the consequence of that is you're not going to go as deep with it. Or if you want to go really deep with one thing and shut everything else out, that's fine too, but the consequence will be that you haven't got to everything you wanted to get to. You're not going to read 10 books, you might read one. Being okay with the consequences of that, and realizing that you hold your own pen and you need to be realistic with it. You set the agenda, you set the time frame, you set the calendar of study. You're in control. If you are feeling too challenged in this walk, lower the bar to peace and joy. Lastly, shut down the inner critic. Catch that voice saying you should have, you can't, you're an imposter, you haven't done that and you should have read 10 books and you've only read one. Shut it down. Make a celebration list weekly of all the things you did do, and put on there the little things like cleaning the toilet, because that takes time too. Be realistic, watch for the inner critic, accept the consequences of only 24 hours in a day, and get the bar down to a place of joy. So those are my divination challenges. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it resonated with somebody, and I will see you again tomorrow. Bye.